Hi, YouTube family and friends. Miss Margaret here again with part two of my video when some of your co-workers hate you. And like I was saying, uh, my birthday was coming up when I was there working in the shelter with the women and children. And so we were doing what we normally do. We always set up the room, we buy a cake and decorate the room because the children are going to be a part of the celebration. So I did not know that there were two other school age children in the school age classroom whose birthday was also the same day as mine. So the executive director and the other staff, they bought a cake for us to all celebrate together, which was very exciting because this was something that we would normally do when the children's birthday come around. Even some of the mothers, when their birthday come around, we always buy a cake, to make them feel happy, because the environment that they were living in and the circumstances they were going through, it was very stressful. Stressful for the mothers, they're homeless with their children, stressful for the children. So we try to make them feel comfortable, make them feel excited, make them feel happy. And so after we finished setting everything up, decorate with balloons, the other staff members were there because we're having birthday parties. And there were two staff members who said, Miss Margaret, we bought you a cake for you to take home for you and your children. I said, oh, why would you buy me a cake? There is this big cake that we have here, sharing with the other two children and the other kids in the center and some of their parents who were there, plus staff. It was a huge cake. I said I could share with these two little boys. It's no big deal. So they said, no, we bought you a cake especially for you to take home and share with your children. I said, oh, okay. Nevertheless, we went on having fun. We put on music. The children are dancing. They're laughing. They're carrying on. We cut the cake. They're eating cake. They get little gifts. And it was really a fun day. Some of them coming up to me, oh, happy birthday, Miss Margaret, happy birthday. And I'm saying, thanks, son. And I'm hugging them, they hugging me, and so on and so forth. And so when I looked, I saw that the cake was finished because there were lots of kids, some parents there, staff members eating and everything. And so I said, because now other mothers are coming, because those that went to school, those that finished work, now they're coming because they also want to celebrate. And even some of the high school children are coming, those that were in school, they're coming, they want to celebrate. So when I realized that the cake was finished, the first cake that we had, I said to the two staff, I said, but I want to share my cake with those who didn't get anything. And one of the staff members, she jumped up. No, Miss Margaret, you don't have to do that. You don't have to do that. I told you that cake is specifically for you and for your children. I said, but I cannot do that. You have parents here. You have other children now coming back from school that are here. Why can't I, because it's my cake, you told me it's my cake, therefore I can do whatever I want with my cake. And if I want to share it with some of the parents who are now coming home from school or coming home from work, and with the other high school students, I can do that. She said, no, no, you're not going to do that. And she took the cake, she closed the box, and she took it and she went way over to the right, and she put it on the table, and she said, this is Miss Margaret cake for her to take home for herself and for her children. So I was kind of shocked, because I'm saying, it's just a cake. Who cares? Even some of my other two friends, they're looking at me, they're looking at the staff member, and they say, but what are you doing? What is wrong with you? They're thinking this. We are thinking this. We're not verbalizing this. And they're looking at me, looking at the staff with this look on their faces. So I said, okay, it's no problem. And so we left the cake there. So now I continue having fun with the children. They're laughing, they're dancing, we're dancing, and so on and so forth until the end of the day, when parents came to pick up their children, because the parents, they have to pick up like about 4:30 or even 4:45, because we as staff, we have to get ready to get on the bus, for the bus to bring us back out to the main road where we can get public transportation. So, and before we leave, we have to clean up the classrooms, wipe down tables, wipe down chairs, mop, sweep, take out the garbage, do everything else, and set up the classroom. And not set up the classroom, make sure it's clean for the next day. So I said, okay, we all finished, we got ready, and we left. Now, normally, me and two of my friends, we would normally go into, there was a little mall close by. So when the bus drops us off, we would just walk and go into the mall. And this was a daily routine for us. We would go and sit down, we'd debrief about the events of the day, and so on. Now, when I was leaving, I took up the box with the cake, and I brought it with me. And when me and my other two friends, we got in the mall, normally we sit down, we would buy evenings a cup of tea or coffee or a soft drink, you know, whatever everybody wants to drink, we buy. And we just sat there and talk. Because when you work in an environment like this, in a homeless shelter, sometimes it's best, before you head off to your home, to sit down and debrief with some of your other colleagues. And so this was what we would do on a daily basis. Sometimes we'll sit there for over an hour. Sometimes we'll buy food and sit down and munch. Whatever you feel like doing, you would do. So one of my colleagues, she looked at me and she says, Miss Margaret, do not eat that cake. She said, you see the garbage over there? Go throw that box with that cake in the garbage. So before she could finish, my other colleague, she said to me, yes, Miss Margaret, I found it so strange that this staff member would tell you you couldn't share the cake. It's your cake. You could share the cake with anybody you wanted to. And she said, I found it so strange that they kept insisting that the cake was for you and you should take it home and share it with your children and all this stuff. And I just laughed. I did not make any comment. But what I did, I got up, I took the box with the cake, and I dumped it in one of the garbage cans in the mall. And then I came back and I sat down with my friends, and we continued talking and laughing and drinking our tea, drinking our coffee, until we said, well, it's time to go. And we went our separate ways. Now, I want to back up a little bit, because when I was given the cake, it's like a little voice inside of me said to me, do not eat that cake. Now the little voice is the Holy Spirit. And I was taken aback. I said, okay. I did not share this with my other two colleagues when we sitting there drinking tea and drinking coffee, and they're telling me to throw away the cake and all this, because I don't think they would have understood what was really going on. But I know I wasn't eating the cake, neither was I bringing it home to share with my children. So I dumped it. And the reason why I did not dump the cake on the job site, because they would have seen me dumping the cake in the garbage can in the center, and that would have been another problem, because they would have gone to the executive director and reported me and tell the executive director, there you go, you see, she don't appreciate what you do for her and all this kind of stuff, and get me into trouble. And so I said, I'm going to use wisdom. And that was the reason why I brought the cake all the way to the mall and then dumped it. So the next day, when I went to work, because I have to go to work, like I said before in my other video, I was the first person at the center, because I have to open, and my shift was like 7 a.m. to 3 p.m. So I have to get there before 7 a.m. to open the doors, to set up the classrooms, because the women, those that are working, they're coming early to drop off the children. Those that are in college and high school and university, they're coming early to drop off their children. Worry about that. So a staff member has to be there to open the classroom. And so that was my job. That was my job. That was what I had to do. And so I went in the next day, and I told, I set up everything. I cleaned, I put the little chairs around the tables, and I did my normal duties, because this was what I got paid to do. And so anyway, after I did my setup duties, and then I waited for the staff to come in. My colleague that worked in the infant and toddler room with me, she came in, and we did our little debriefing before we start our shift. By this time, to the mothers, they came and started dropping off their children and so on and so forth. So anyway, after that, I saw the other three staff. They come in and they had this shocked look on their faces. It's like they saw ghosts. And I was my bright, happy, chipper self. I said, "Hi, ladies. How are you doing today? It's such a beautiful day. How are you? Good morning. Good morning." And they looked at me. They got pale in the face. It's like they were shocked, utterly shocked to see me. But then it dawned on me that they realized their plan did not work. And I was happy throughout the day. I'm laughing, I'm talking with the children, we're having fun. I am happy, having fun with my colleagues, and so on and so forth until the day was over. One of the, I think it was the next day, one of the mothers said to me, "Miss Margaret, can I speak to you?" I said, "Sure, darling, how are you doing?" And she said, "Miss Margaret, I want to tell you something. That this staff member said to me, and it really upset me, and this is why I'm just warning you, that she's gonna take care of you." I said, "Take care of me?" She says, "Yes." And she says, "Miss Margaret, I just want you to be careful, because to me, that sounds like a threat." I said, "Okay, it is what it is." So I went along and I said to the young lady, the mother who was telling me this, I said, "Girl, let me tell you something. I am a blood-bought child of the Most High God." And I said, "The angels of the Lord encamp around about me." I said, "The Lord tell me that the battle is his, it's not mine." I said, "So I do not have to fight with anybody. I do not have to argue with anybody." I said, "Because right now around me, there are armies of angels with their swords drawn, waiting to fight for me." I said, "So I am not afraid of anybody who tries to fix me or deal with me." I said, "You know the way I fight? I go down on my knees and I pray for them. I fast and I pray for them. That's how I fight my battles." I said, "But thanks for telling me." And that little young lady, she was so shocked like this. She said, "Wow, wow, Miss Margaret." I said, "Yes." And we parted ways, and she went about her business and I went back doing my job. And so I realized that in some environments you have to be very careful. That's a lesson I learned. You have to be very careful with some of the people you work with. They might be smiling and grinning with you in your face, but behind your back, they have nothing good to say about you, and they're planning your demise. So be very careful. Be very careful. Also, it was like months later, I was praying one day and I said, Lord, I really need to know what was it those two staff members put in that cake. Were they trying to poison me to get rid of me? What was it? And immediately I got the answer. And exactly how it was done. It was a lot of drugs that they cut the bottom of the cake and they stuffed in the cake, and then they put on back the bottom of the cake, turn it over and put it in the box. I was so shocked. I was so shocked. I said, but I never, ever did anything to these two staff members. I said they came here to work in this organization. They did not really have, yes, they had all their qualifications to work in an early childhood education center, but they had never worked in a homeless shelter, especially one with women and children. And here is where I'm going to throw in some little facts. I've lived in a shelter with me and my children because we were homeless. So I've been a client in a shelter. And I've worked as a staff member in many shelters. I know the rules and the regulations that you have to follow. And me, all I was trying to do was to explain certain procedures, certain rules, certain laws that you have to know when you're working in this environment, shelter environment. What are the rules and the regulations from the city? Because our shelter was run also by the city of Toronto. And there are certain do's and don'ts that you have to adhere to, the rules and the regulations. And I was just trying to explain this to some of them. I realized we had to work as a team. I was not there to take anybody's job. I'm here working with you. I never disrespect you. I'm polite to you. I'm helpful. I'm giving ideas. I'm giving suggestions. Why do you think that you have the right to just come in an environment like this and hate somebody that you don't even know? You never really sat down and have a conversation with me long enough to get to find out who I am, where I'm coming from. All you know is that I'm a single mother with 3 children. Now the thing is, years later I get to find out why they did not like me. It's because of my religious beliefs. Now I have my religious beliefs. I did not force my religious beliefs on anybody. Because I know that in certain environments, you cannot do that. And so I leave that there. So I just continue doing what I was doing, working professionally, helping the women, helping the children, because this was what I was trained to do. And so I continue doing that. Now, the whole lessons that I've learned from this experience is be careful. Keep your eyes and your ears open with some of the people you work with. I said this before and I'm going to say it again. Before we used to, anybody coming in, they would pick up a box of donuts, they would pick up a box of muffins, coming into work, and we would share with a cup of tea, with a cup of coffee. It all depends on what you felt like eating. Sometimes some people used to bring sandwiches, and we would share. And from this experience, I stopped eating in that environment. I did not care who brought it, whether you were my friend or you were not my friend. I would never eat anything again in there. I used to bring if I wanted a muffin, I bring my muffin from home. If I wanted to eat a donut, I brought my donut from home. Only thing I used to make there was my tea, because I'm a tea drinker. Sip tea. Yes. So that was what I started to do. And we worked. Some of those staff members, they were fired. Some of them, one day they came in and they quit the job. They handed in their resignation. And here is where I tell you, at the end of the day, myself and my other friend, we worked in that organization for over 10 years. And when the organization was handed over to another organization, and they did not want to hire us or take the staff that was with the previous organization where we were let go. And that is when I moved on and I started working for another homeless shelter. In the city here, you can work with different populations, they call them. Whether it's single women, whether it's single men, whether it's single mothers and their children. And so or whether it's youth. So I've worked with all populations of homeless people. And I've learned a thing or two. And I just wanted to share this as another storytelling video of my life and my experiences. And so I thank you, my YouTube family and friends. Thank you for listening in. And like I always say, please like, share, and subscribe. And help your 71-year-old girl out. Thank you. Love you. Bye-bye for now.